Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. We're talking Nvidia. Shares are down about 27% from those all-time highs that we saw at the beginning of the year. It's been under pressure. Kevin Hincks, let's go to you first here on this name because it just seems like it keeps on getting punished to hit 7-month lows yet just yesterday. And it's just, is it an unfair punishment, or is it just it's not immune to maybe some weakness in the overall market on top of slowing growth, even though they're still growing pretty rapidly?
Well, number one, Tom, it's so widely held that it's going to bear the brunt of whatever happens in the market, right? And I'm sure people coming off a 10-for-1 stock split have, and it was a while ago, have lightened some of their positions. And there was some worries around competition. You know, I think the Blackwell numbers for the fourth quarter last year were way better than expected. I think there's still everyone, Tom, there's no cracks in the demand story for Nvidia and chips in general. Everyone is confirming that demand is crazy. OpenAI OpenAI, ChatGPT, they just confirmed their demand is still, strong. So I just think there's so many things. And Tom, here's my question that I used to say about Tesla a lot. Now I say about Nvidia. What's in their pipeline? We know the Rubin chips in their pipeline. And I'll give investors, our viewers, one thought. What if they have a Palantir story, Tom? What if they take something that's general to hyperscalers and make it for the general public? What if they start doing that? Think of what that could do to their demand, right? And so what's the next generation of what Nvidia is doing? Jensen Huang, really smart guy, is good at what he does. And so I think this is a sell-off with the rest of the market, a little bit heightened because of the popularity of Nvidia. It's a double-edged sword, as you know, but boy, I can't find anyone that's bearish on Nvidia, Tom.
Yeah, KG, when you look at this, I think some of the consternation that's happening with the stock right now is the fact that, you had DeepSeek come out. They're saying they did it a lot cheaper, that, this is technology. Kevin and I have seen this through our trading career where, hey, things are really expensive and everybody wants one immediately, but eventually they're going to start pulling back on CapEx spend and build out an infrastructure, even though the technology is still moving ahead. But that makes everything cheaper. And maybe there's other alternatives coming, in the next year or two. Is that maybe the concern that a lot of investors are having with this stock, besides the fact that it's still up amazingly from 3 years ago?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I can't name a hardware cycle throughout history that doesn't go through this type of commoditization and lower prices, right? And margins and greater competition. So I think what makes this situation a little bit more unique, yes, the DeepSeek news, but also NVIDIA has never had a product cycle refresh cycle like we have seen when it comes to these GPUs or these chips. They usually would have 2-year cycles. Now you're seeing announcements, every 9 months or so. That's very, very quick. And so I think at first, obviously there's a lot of demand there, and rightfully so. But I think analysts and a lot of investors might be questioning, okay, well, are you going too fast where you're going to start cannibalizing the H100s or the H200? I think that's one thing to be mindful of. And then two, any type of pullback that we get to the equity market, sometimes people take profits on the biggest winners that they have. I mean, they want to be able to raise some capital and they say, hey, I've had a 100% or maybe even a 200% gain on this stock, depending on when you get in, maybe even more. Maybe they're paring back a bit. But you did see some buyers really stepping in at that 105 level. So 105 and $95, between that range, seems like there's still some value that is there. And the stock is trying to break above really around that 112 level. And until it does, I think you got to be kind of cautious around the name. But the performance financially, I think, is probably one of the better companies that are out there. I think the analyst expectations now are coming a little bit more in line with these beat and raises that we've gotten kind of accustomed to over the last 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah, you wonder what type of impact the tariffs are going to have on this company. They can only sell that lower grade AI chip to China, although it was announced that a bunch of Chinese tech companies put in orders for $16 billion of the H20 server chip that they're able to use over there. But this has been beaten down stock here, KG. You mentioned that 105 level. It's hit it a couple times over the last month or so.